official figure is something like 130,000 identified, died and buried, and 30,000, approximately 30,000 missing. The exact number will never be known.
Tsunami is something that we never think about or even never imagines about. What we did at that time, of course, is to save ourselves. Actually, it was a struggle to live again, because you can't imagine that how much that you lose. You lose family, you lose home, you lose everything, and you don't know what would happen. So then there is no certainty as well where to go, what to eat, and that's been for a couple of weeks. What was really sad for me is if there is immediate help from everywhere, that may be more life safe. But I saw by my eyes, I feel myself that many people is dead because it cannot be helped immediately or quickly.
I have worked in Somalia, in Sudan, and my last assignment before coming here was Afghanistan. I came here, I went around the first day I arrived, and I was astonished at the scale of destruction here. Compared to any of these three big tragedies that we are still facing in terms of reconstruction, whether it's in Afghanistan, Somalia, or Sudan. But here the scale was just so massive, and frankly I didn't know where to start. So this is just one individual, but then there are others also came here and was part of this scenario.
Can you imagine? You have a soccer field. You have your best player in the soccer field, right? So you have 11 people, and you put in the best basketball player in the same field. Okay, Michael Jordan playing with David Beckham at the same time, right? And you get somebody, and this is a hockey player, and put them in the same field. And then that field, the soccer field, is full with players. How do you coordinate? How do you coordinate? When you say scramble, what does it mean? When you say shoot, what does it mean? You jump somebody and kick, right? And just an analogy of that. And you have these NGOs coming down here, very well manned, okay, whereby urgency is high. It is a case of life and death for many people. So you wish that coordination is much better, right? In the whole continuum, in the early stage when the coordination is totally chaotic, you wish that the coordination is of this level, okay? Which is, I mean, the chaos goes down, right? But then when you reach this place, this position, you wish that the coordination is as this better, right? So it's always dissatisfactory. When you're talking about coordination in a chaotic place like this, you always face dissatisfaction.
It did take a little bit of time in terms of organizing, in terms of preparing the guideline, and then there was the other part of the number of agencies. Just in the housing, shelter, reconstruction sector, there are more than 110 agencies involved. And the government coordinating body was not formed till later on to bring some sense into this reconstruction. So I don't think it's a question of blaming any agency. It's just the frame condition at that time with so many agencies wanting to help, the total vacuum of of policies, and then this massive scale. Did take a little bit of time to get everybody organized.
Immediately after the tsunami, the first response of people was to flee. They had that the worst times of conflict. They flee. They flee to other places in Aceh, to, to the villages of family members, or they flee to other areas of Indonesia. They went in large numbers to other parts of Sumatra, for instance. One of the problems that the humanitarian community saw here was when they came was that people were constantly on the move. There was of course an immediate decision to send up tent camps, and then camps with barracks followed pretty soon. But they had never a stable population, so to speak, because people were continuously trying to make up their mind where to go. That continued for many, many months, and to some extent it is still ongoing, because those people which, for instance, had a livelihood in the city as a trader, were renting spaces in the city to live with their family. They lost their work, they lost their house. They're often still locked up in a barrack, because it's not their house that has to be rebuilt, it is their entire life that has to be rebuilt. And nobody knows, and for sure they don't know whether that will be again in that city or they have to move somewhere else. And they're still trying to decide where to go, moving into barracks, moving out of barracks, coming back.
As an Achenese here, I would like to say thank you very much for all the attention and support from everybody, from international community, for whoever, because it really means to, I think, people of Aceh, of course. And it shows us that we care each other. And this is good. I think that is what globalization and information means to everyone who's living in this on earth, that the information comes that fast. But at the same time, I don't see that Aceh is better than before tsunami. With the huge money flow in, if we see from that perspective, that is money expert from every single corner the world is coming here, we can expect maybe it's better housing development, it's better city development, it's better economic development, but it's extremely hard to see that. And I don't know what was going wrong, but I think it's time to reflect for everyone, the Achenese themselves, maybe myself also, for those international aid also who's working here, for everyone. I think this is the biggest disaster here, and people come here from everywhere. It's money, huge money, from international community, from national community, from private sector, all. But where does money going, for instance? People are asking.
Had been involved in modern times in an operation like this. It took an enormous charge on resources, on there was a massive amount of money collected through private donors, people individually giving funds and government adding funds, but the capacities to really set up such an operation, they were never enough. And bit by bit an operation started in which UN agencies, humanitarian organizations, Indonesian institutions started to find ways to cooperate on reconstructions in manners that were never charted out before.
Do we really know how many houses needs to be built? Okay. In the beginning, the quick assessment that was done by the government central planning body, together with the World Bank, state that the number of houses that need to be built are 90,000 houses. The first day that we got here, we start going around and check with people and get sources information from the NGO who are already here and all those things. And we established at that time that the number of houses that needs to be built is actually 120,000. So it's far from what the government was assessed in the beginning. And then we realized later on moving on, that there are actually houses that needs to be rehabilitated because of a few damage, but because of time goes, it got totally destroyed after 1 year because of the, maybe not just wear and tear, but it got really weak. So the number of the houses that we need to build and the number of the really deserving beneficiaries are moving by day. Okay, they're very dynamic. So only last 2 months, I think two or 3 months ago, we finally say that thank you very much. We have done all what we can in terms of checking the whole area, asking people, confirming and verifying. Now we really know how many beneficiaries are there that need houses. Okay, so the number of houses that we need to build right now stands at about 136,000. 136,000 houses is not only for BRR as the art agency to build, but it is built by so many stakeholders. IOM build houses, Red Cross build houses, right? Save the Children build houses, World Vision build houses, Mercy Malaysia, Merlin, you name it. All these people are building houses. And the government of Indonesia, through their own budget, built maybe about 20 to 25% of the total numbers. Okay, so this is an international village. Not that internationally occupied, but internationally built village. Big village built by international parties. How many has already been built? 74,000. Okay, that was last month. Okay, we plan to have our 100,000th house done by November. End of November, 100,000, and we are planning to celebrate that time that we have built 100,000 houses.
As of now, I think we have, I should say we have caught up. In the beginning, particularly up to about, let's say, October 2005, there was a lot of confusion. This massive scale of destruction here really put everybody into a very confusing state of how to start, when to start, how to organize the labor, how to organize the material, because the scale was just so vast. However, as far as Habitat is concerned, we have finished constructing all 3,450 houses that we were mandated to do, and they have been handed over to the people. Occupancy is about 90%. Right now we have about 600 houses under construction and another 500 to be started soon. We hope to finish everything latest by January 2008.
All the houses we planned that it has to be finished by the end of 2008. Now, actually our aim is to have it finished by the middle of 2008, not the end. But we realized that we need to do a lot of sweeping of facilities that were not built yet. So by the end of 2008, we wish to be able to say that all the houses are built and the settlement and the roads and the gutter is already done, and those places, the facilities are already in place.
What I learned from disaster is not how big money or how big assistance that you can provide, but how quick you can do it. You can help it. Doesn't matter how small, but quick, as soon as possible. So what I'm sometimes really frustrated when working with community is that when we're talking about aid, international development aid or aid from different agencies, that we're talking about big things. Big meaning that we would like to have 1,000 people, but at the end of the day we help very little. because of we just thinking too big. We not do something big, but we plan something big. And I don't think that's really helpful in disaster.
Now, another question is that when it is done, is it done? Are we really able to move everybody to the new houses? Are they willingly move to their new houses? Are they happy with their new houses? I mean, you can stretch that key performance indicator into more social and more cultural level, but at least physically and technically, we want to be able to build all the houses by the end of 2008. Our mandate ends at April 2009. Started 2005 April, May 1, and April 30th of 2009. Non-negotiable. We have to move out.
We see that post-tsunami reconstruction is basically over as far as shelter component is concerned. However, we have to also remember that Aceh not only had tsunami issue but also the post-conflict issue. There was a free Aceh movement now going on for the past 30 years, and after the tsunami there was a peace agreement, and now the focus of the government is on post-conflict reconstruction. So we are going to be providing technical assistance and training support to the government for post-conflict reconstruction.
Aceh being struck with the disaster of the scale of the tsunami was of course one thing. It was a real conflict area. It had seen war for about 30 years. Not massive amounts of number of people were killed, but it was war on and on. The impact of the conflict was twofold. Short term was in the first year. There was obvious no outlook of what the future would bring. Would any large contractor ever start up an operation here to rebuild, for instance, houses or bridges or roads? He would do that if there was a peace agreement. He would not do that if there was no peace agreement. So that's basic uncertainty. But the second thing is that even though a peace agreement was signed in August 2005, the institutions don't come together the next morning. As a result of conflict for so many decades, there is basically in areas like these, and it's not only Aceh, it's everywhere in conflict areas in the world, there is zero trust in public institutions. And that doesn't change overnight with the peace agreement. We had a good example with, for instance, planning, spatial planning, urban planning, regional planning, which had to accompany the reconstruction efforts and which did not work at all. There was just no common ground found to decide on any outcome of planning efforts or to organize even these planning efforts, because the institutions who had to put their weight behind such plans had no credibility. And so there was a void in that sense. And we did planning here in a large area of Banda Aceh, which had seen destruction to an extreme extent. But even after construction of houses had seen lots of progress, only then we started to bring in together the actors which could put their weight behind efforts of planning, which could bring that neighborhood, that part of the city together over a longer time frame. That was building of trust. Not just trust between people and the military, but plus between people and all sorts of public institutions.
This was a closed location until the tsunami hit and all these agencies came. There was special pass needed to come to Aceh because of the conflict here. And the conflict was very real. When we came here, it was right at where the present some of the offices of UN and other agencies are right in the city here. It was in a conflict zone. So even going to the guest house, we had to go through conflict zone here. So conflict was not far away, it was very near. So it was a close place.
In the beginning, there are about 460 NGOs here when the tsunami hit. Volunteers from around the world are here, okay? In the early days, what they are doing is helping out by cleaning the debris, helping out by finding the bodies, helping out by putting those bodies into the plastic bag and bury them and all those things, right? And then after that, they help out with health and food and water. And then next, they help with building houses, providing the water supply continuously, okay? But not everybody can do that. Okay, so from 460 right now, we have about 157 still in operation, building houses and other things. How many of them is going to continue and doing the capacity building, community, the CSO, right, the community service organization, community-based organization, to really get into, I don't know. So if by 2009, when we pack up and leave this place, I think about half, my speculation, about half of the NGO who are active in the reconstruction will be away already. But there will be the die-hard people who are staying here and say that I want to see through it that these people are getting what they deserve to be a real human. Okay, so I am still hopeful, because once you are exposed, just like myself, okay, I got hooked. This is very important. This is very humanly important. We need to do this and see it to the end, kind of things, right? The mandate ending last of April 2009. We met with the president, and the president said, non-negotiable. You have to finish by then.
Well, we are sitting here in August 2007, and it's now that we get relaxed to a certain degree, because it suddenly turns out that progress here in Aceh has been remarkable, that things have come together to an extent that was not expected, let's say, 18 months ago. Tsunami was horrendous, both in terms of impact on people and in terms of scale on economy, livelihoods, and so on. It took basically 6 to 9 months for things on a very, very basic level to come together, for people, for instance, to make up their mind whether to go back to their villages or neighborhoods, or just to leave the place altogether. And after that initial lead time of complete uncertainty, we should also not forget there was no peace agreement as long as August 2005, so that took also 9 months to achieve. Well, in that lead time, people slowly started to make up their mind to go back, started rebuilding. An operation with about 115 humanitarian organizations started to develop. Land had to be cleared and cleaned. The land had to be remapped out, because there was no visible marker anymore of where boundaries were in the past, and building started. And that gained momentum in 2006, and at present 80,000 houses or so are done through a massive movement with these 150 organizations, a huge amount of programs and approaches, massive involvement of people themselves, of communities, and many people are now back into the neighborhoods.
Another job needs to be done, and that is to make sure that the job continues, that the work is continuously done. Who should continue doing the job? We have to transition that to the local government. Okay? Now, that's another chapter in terms of the chronology of the local government, and I believe that you get it from somewhere. For a long time, even when the tsunami hit, this province doesn't have an effective governor. Okay? The governor at the time was in jail because of corruption. So the vice governor was actually acting as the governor. Okay? For some time. Only until the newly elected governor was in place, Irwandi Yusuf. So he was placed, and then it was a fair election, direct election, he got elected, and he comes from the GAM side. Why it is interesting? Because the governor does not have extensive bureaucracy experience. Now, when we have to transfer this big job, which is basically a central government work, right, to them, somehow this organization has made central government more Aceh oriented. Okay, we talk to the people here, we know what is the people wants, and so we translate that more readily, and like the central government listening, the ears get to the ground, okay, and we start acting on the ground. It has to be moved now to the provincial government. The provincial government, being new, is also in its own transition of getting the real traction of governing. So their job now is double in terms of learning how to govern and receiving the transition, either asset or systems that we use, or the people that work with us that can be used by them, or project that's not finished, or asset that's already done. Now, can you imagine if you are a local government who does not have very strong capability to maintain machinery, and because of the reconstruction, we install in many places generating set, okay, electric generators, here, there, anywhere. Local government, I'm done. Please take care of this. They don't know how to maintain that. They don't know how to operate that. If their capacity is not built between now and 2009, and we leave, 3 months later, the generator will die. Okay? And this place will get back to the dark ages.
I think if we can learn from what happening in Aceh, maybe we can make something better in the future if something happen in other places. This is the lesson need to be learned, not just ignore it, not just move from one disaster area to the other disaster, and then we are become reactive, respond, without really learning what happening here. And after almost 3 years, a tsunami, that house been built, but it's not occupied because it's no clean water, no proper toilet, the roof leaking. Why did it happen? What went wrong? That's the thing that we need to learn.
Many of the agencies have finished their work and moved on. Work is still continuing. For example, reconstruction of school through UNICEF is still continuing. It will still take a little bit of time. Basically, housing, 110,000, 113,000 units, mostly it is done. But we also have to take in perspective of not just this incident of tsunami in Aceh, but also, for example, compare this with the Kobe earthquake and how long it took to reconstruct. Or take the reconstruction efforts in New Orleans after Katrina. Where is that, and where we are now? I think in 2.5 years, excellent work has been done. If you put that in the perspective of the chaos here, and in the perspective of other similar incidents, and how long it took to reconstruct if you compare with New Orleans.